Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know, if I will ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high. Even if the sky is falling down. Jumping from cliffs so high, trusting our wings to fly. Sometimes we're crashing down, but we get up and start from the ground. And I really wanna know, if I will ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high. Even if the sky is falling down, even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down. Even if the sky is falling down, even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down. down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down. Jumping from cliffs so high, trusting our wings to fly. Sometimes we're crashing down, but we get up and start from the ground. And I really wanna know, if I'll ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down. Even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down. Even if the sky is falling down, even if the sky is falling down, yeah. The sky is falling down.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Love is Greater Than Fear Spiritual Center. I am Reverend Derek, and I am so excited for another glorious Sunday morning, another opportunity to get together and talk about spirituality and God as we understand it as a community. Today, we're going to be talking about how to create a new reality. So if you are someone who's maybe feeling a little stuck in a couple areas of life, maybe you're a little stuck with a health situation, maybe you're a little stuck in your romance life, your romantic life, maybe you're stuck in some other relationships, could be your finances, your career, anxiety, depression, all those typical plagues of the human existence, whatever it might be for you. I promise you that today's talk about creating a new reality is going to provide you with some powerful practices, principles, and tools that will help you, as the title of the talk says, create a new reality. So before we get into that, for anybody who is watching for their very first time, as I mentioned, I am Reverend Derek, and this is the Love is Greater Than Fear Spiritual Center. We are a virtual spiritual center, and we get together every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time to talk about spirituality. Now, I happen to be a student of a book called A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles explores universal spiritual principles. You don't have to be a student of A Course in Miracles to get something from this. You could be a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist. You could follow the teachings of the science of mind, whatever it might be for you, and still walk away with some powerful tools and principles, because what we're talking about here is universal spiritual principles. Our vision as a center is to be a spiritual place for personal and planetary awakening. And who is welcome? I kind of hate that we have to say this, but we do. Everyone is welcome, and our community is for all of God's children. Every single person on this planet who exists today, who has ever existed, and who will ever exist is a child of God, regardless of your gender, your race, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your religious background, your political affiliation, or anything else that seems to be a difference. Beyond all of that, beneath all of that, we are all children of God, and we believe that all of God's children deserve a life of peace, love, freedom, and creative expression. We also believe in the dismantling of the thought systems of fear that would hinder any person's purpose on earth. We believe in love and equality for all. On top of that, a couple principles that guide the Love is Greater Than Fear Center is, number one, we reject the idea that there is only one path to God. We celebrate every life. We believe we are stronger together. We believe prayer and meditation can transform any life, and we believe that love is greater than fear. If you guys don't mind joining me in saying out loud our spiritual declaration for this morning, I surrender this day to God that He may lead me to deeper peace, greater love, and fuller life expression. I surrender all my fears and desires to Him. I ask that He show me the path from fear to love. Amen. All right. And so if you guys do feel you need a little extra spiritual guidance this week, we'll come right back to that slide. I do have a couple updates and announcements I want to share with you guys. Now, before we get into the talk, let's do a morning prayer. So if you feel comfortable, bowing your head, closing your eyes, however you get ready to pray, join me in prayer. Dear God, we invite you into our minds and hearts this morning. We ask that you guide this conversation, and I ask that you bless everyone who is watching this morning, whether they're watching live right now or they're watching a recording, whatever it might be. We invite you into our minds, into our hearts, dear God, and we hand today's conversation over to you, that whatever needs to be said is said, whatever needs to be felt is felt, whatever aha each one of us need today, that we experience that aha and pave the path to a miracle. Furthermore, dear God, not only do I bless the Love is Greater Than Fear spiritual community, but I bless everyone who is getting together today to explore or worship the God of their understanding. Whether they meet together today in a church, a mosque, a temple, whatever it might be, we bless them, dear God, knowing that ultimately, despite the many paths to you, they all lead to the same place, that we're all together on this journey from fear to love, and that we are guided, guarded, and directed by your thoughts. And together we say, Amen. Well, happy Sunday, everybody. So it's October, it's a new month, and this month we are going to be exploring how to create a new reality. I like I already mentioned, I'm a big fan of A Course in Miracles. That's what I study. But what actually got me into spirituality was the work of Jerry and Esther Hicks, the Abraham material. So I've actually been like reading quite a bit of both of them and seeing how they connect and how they intertwine. And so I wanted to talk today about creating a new reality. So I remember this time when I was like, gosh, I would have been like 23, something like that. I got up this morning when I was 23 to go to work. And I'm driving to work. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. And this thought runs through my head. That ran through my head a lot of times. And that's, Derek, just keep driving. Do not go to work today. Keep driving. Don't look back. I don't want to go to that job anymore. I don't want to live the life the way I've been living it. I don't even want to go back to that apartment. I just wanted to like leave my life behind. Get in my car, keep driving until I found myself in a new city. And once I got into that new city, I thought, then I'll become a different person. I'll make new friends. I'll get a different job. I'll get a new apartment. All these things I thought I was going to do. If I could just keep driving, I could escape the reality I had created for myself. Now, at that time, I didn't know these principles and these ideas. I didn't know that I was in charge of creating my world. All I knew was I wanted to get in my car and I wanted to just keep driving until I escaped my reality and could start a new one. I didn't know back then about the principles and the tools, the practices, the books, the seminars, all that stuff that help you understand how life comes to be the way it is. So today, before we can really talk about how you create that new reality, we got to talk about how life gets to be the way it is. Now, each and every single one of us were born into a specific time, space reality, right? I was born in 1983 in Kansas. I'm white, I'm gay. I was born to a poor family. I was born to in a family that would eventually be a step family. Like all these things I was born into, right? And for you, you have that same situation. You were born at a certain time, certain space, a specific city with a certain set of parents. And all of this teaches us how to think, right? Because of the time space reality you were born into, you were handed thoughts by your parents, you were handed thoughts by your siblings, you were handed beliefs by teachers, by your grandparents, by society, all different things like that. And we were each given these different sets of belief. And now the sets of belief that you were given are going to vary from mine, right? If you're a woman, you got different set of beliefs than I probably got as a male. If you are of another skin color, if you are black, you probably got a different set of beliefs from your family and from society than I got. If you are gay, you got a different set of beliefs and a different set of thoughts than other people got. Same thing no matter who you are. If you grew up in a Democratic household, you got a different set of beliefs handed to you than someone who grew up in a Republican one, right? And same thing, if you grew up in the Middle East, Muslim, you have a different set of beliefs. Now we have all of these beliefs, again, that come from our individual reality, our reality with our parents, with our family, our classmates, our teachers, and then we have the collective beliefs that are handed down from our society, from our whatever country you're part of, just whatever it might be. If you were active at a church as a child, same thing, right? If you grew up Christian, you're going to likely to have a very different set of beliefs handed to you than if you grew up non-religious, right? So all of this stuff just goes into the mind and they become our thoughts and they become our beliefs. And we begin to think, speak, and act in accordance with these beliefs. Now, you really have to, like, just a couple choices here. You know, I know when I was a kid, there were certain beliefs I was handed that I just kept and I took on. Beliefs about being insecure, abandonment issues, like all that, like icky normal stuff. I don't know if normal, but that icky stuff. And then there were also beliefs I was handed that I said no to, and that I kind of like, and I rejected. But ultimately, they all shaped and formed me somehow. Now, these beliefs that ultimately lead us to the reality that we create as adults, these beliefs are important because they affect how we think, they affect how we speak, and they affect how we behave, right? If someone is told as a child that money doesn't grow on trees, money isn't for people like us, rich people take from the poor, thoughts and beliefs and attitudes like that, then you're likely to create a similar situation as an adult where you have financial problems. You're very likely to, right? And I'm sure we've all been through that. I'm sure we can all think about a thought pattern that our parents gave us that we carried into adulthood, right? Now, the other reason why this is important is just not that it affects how we behave as individuals, but in this universe, there's a powerful law of attraction, right? The things that we think is what we create. If I think with love, I'm going to create a loving experience. If I have loving thoughts about relationships and loving thoughts about money and loving thoughts about myself and loving thoughts about my business, I'm so much more likely to create a more loving experience and reality. But if I have fearful thoughts about relationships, right? If I have a fear of being rejected, if I have fearful thoughts about money and there never being enough, or if I have fearful thoughts about myself and about my body, then I'm much more likely to create a fearful experience from that. So this is how life comes to be the way it is. If you've never taken, there's a class at the Centers for Spiritual Living I took, and it was called How Life Gets to Be the Way It Is. And it was based on the science of mind principles, which are nearly identical to the Course in Miracles. And this course was so powerful for me when I took it, because I went from beginning, from the time I was born. Actually, we started before that. We looked at the thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes our parents had before they even had us. Then we looked at the ones they handed down to us. And then we looked at the ones that we got from our teachers as a teenager. And then we looked at the ones we got once we got into the world and into our 20s. And once I took this course and I looked at my life, it's like There was no mystery to this. There was no mystery to why I felt I was suffering so much in my 20s. There was no mystery to it. I'd been handed down thought patterns about not being enough. So no wonder, if a person doesn't feel they are enough, they're going to create experiences where people and circumstances agree with that belief that they're not enough. Now, I can tell you for me in my early 20s, the way that showed up was rejection in dating, rejection from jobs I wanted, and then just overall feeling terrible about myself. So this feeling of I am not enough is a very powerful vortex that creates the reality of I am not enoughness, right? And what does that mean if I am not enough? Well, it means that I'm thinking and agreeing with with a fear-based reality. Now, we only have two choices in life. We can either think with fear or we can think with love. That is our only choice. And when I choose to think with fear and to think that I'm not enough, that cuts me off from God's promise that I am enough and I will have enough. It's as if I'm turning away from God and saying, no, thank you. Right? It's in the Course in Miracles, it paints a picture as if it's like you and I are the children of wealthy kings. And as the children of wealthy kings, we have a natural divine inheritance that will take care of us. But it's as if we are turning to our father, the king, and saying, no, thank you. I'm going to go over here and do this thing instead. So every time we choose to think with fear, we are rejecting God. We are rejecting his universe. Now, back to this idea of how life comes to be the way it is. The thought patterns that our parents give us, our siblings, our teachers, the thought patterns that we come up with on our own, the thought patterns we get from society tend to be fearful. The thinking of this world, the Course says, is 180 degrees away from the thinking of God. What is natural to us, what is a natural type of thought pattern to us, is very unnatural to God. And the challenge we face here as individuals is these thoughts and these beliefs, they build momentum and they snowball, right? You ever been in a relationship that wasn't going well, and you get in one of those days where you just like really have like a chronic belief about how this person did this and they did that and XYZ, whatever your drama is. That is really powerful. And that will snowball until eventually there is a fight, there is a breakup, something like that happens, right? And so all these thoughts and all these beliefs, they do that. They snowball, they build momentum, they take control of our lives. People don't wake up and one day they're overweight, right? It's years and years, usually months and months at least, of overeating and not exercising that leads to being overweight. Same thing is true if you have like really bad financial problems. Odds are that didn't happen like overnight. Odds are that this was a snowball effect and it had momentum going over several years, several months, several days, something like that. Same thing is true for your career situation. Same thing is true if you're a person who experiences a lot of anxiety and depression. You didn't just wake up with anxiety one morning and depression one morning. It was years and years of thought patterns that were unnatural and untrue to God, just building up and collecting and snowballing, building up that momentum. Now, another way of looking at that is that the world that we live in, the normal thought process is of fear, and that creates a gravity that holds us to fear. Now, spiritual exercises are a lot like physical exercises. When I'm lifting weights, I am working against gravity, and that's what helps me to build muscles. And the same thing is true with our spiritual practices. When I'm doing my meditation and prayer, I am using my thoughts and working them out so that they can become stronger, and we're resisting the gravity of fear. So far what I said probably sounds really negative, right? And that's true. I mean, this is how it is. If you are a person who relates to what I'm saying, and are you having some experience in life right now that is not miraculous, that is not loving, that is not joyous and abundant, all of this hopefully makes sense to you. because this is how life gets to be the way it is. And then you go in and you factor in age, and you also factor in your own life experience, right? You know, in your 20s, if you keep those same thoughts and beliefs and you don't do the work on it, you don't do your prayer and your meditation, read some books, get some counseling, all of that is going to spill into your 30s, to your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, and so on and so forth. So today we're talking about creating a new reality. So how do we do that? If we're a person who has limited thinking about money, how do we create a world where we have money? If we're a person who has limited thinking or limited experience of a loving relationship, how do we create a new reality so that we can experience love and joy in a relationship? So I'm going to share with you guys some practices you can take to begin to shift your reality into something else. But first, I want to remind you about the story of Cinderella. I am a huge fan of fairy tales. I'm a big fan of fairy tales because fairy tales have this beautiful capability of taking these spiritual principles and like simplifying them in a way so that children can understand them. And if we can revisit them as adults, we're going to see that how simple it is and easy it is to apply this stuff to our lives. I sometimes laugh when I'm reading something like A Course in Miracles or a complex spiritual book. I'm like, man, I could just watch a Disney film and get the same lesson. But back to Cinderella. So in the story of Cinderella, you know that scene where she is her little mice friends have tried making a dress for her, and her stepmom said, no, you can't go to the ball. And all she wants to do is go to the ball. And her stepsisters have been bullying her. And she's laying there on the ground and she is sobbing. She is sobbing for a very important reason. She is living a life in slavery to her wicked stepmother and her stepsisters. Her father has died, and she lives a very miserable experience as a servant to her stepfamily. And she wants a new reality, right? She wants to go live in the palace with the prince and not struggle and have a whole different world, right? So she's laying there sobbing. And then that's when the fairy godmother shows up. The fairy godmother shows up and Cinderella says, oh my gosh, I thought you would never come. And the fairy godmother says, that isn't true, because if that was true, I couldn't have come. And the fairy godmother takes her magical wand and she starts looking at the things in Cinderella's experience, and with her magic, transforming everything. She looks at the tattered dress that her mice friends had made for her, turns it into a beautiful ball gown. She looks at the pumpkin, transforms it into a beautiful carriage. She looks at the mice and turns them into coachmen. And now Cinderella can go to the ball. Notice that the fairy godmother did not say, hey, Cinderella, let's go shopping. I'm going to buy you a dress. we're going to rent you a car. We're going to buy you some glass slippers. Nothing like that happened. She literally took the circumstances that were right there in the vicinity of Cinderella and began to transform them. So this is really important because regardless of what is going on in your life right now, regardless of your circumstances, your financial circumstances, your circumstances in your health, your circumstances in your relationships, your circumstances in your career, regardless of where you are right now, there is a magical wand that can help you transform that. Now, what is that magical wand? That magical wand, as it's told in fairy tales, represents our focused consciousness, our ability to stand erect in our spiritual power and know the truth. A Course in Miracles talks about positive denial. Positive denial means that when I look at a situation, I look at a financial crisis, I look at my loneliness, my anxiety, my depression, when I look at those things, I don't deny they exist. I used to be that type of spiritual seeker. I would feel depressed, and then I would start saying, no, all is well, I am happy, I am joyous, never really getting to the root of why I was depressed, and really just deceiving myself and not transcending my depression and anxiety. So this is where A Course in Miracles is very different. It tells us to stand in the situation that we are in and look and say, hey, yeah, I see I'm lonely. I see I'm depressed. I see this financial problem. I see this health problem. Whatever your challenge is, wherever you are not living a miraculous life, we look at that and we say, wow, I see that this is happening, but I stand in my wand. I stand fully erect in my magical wand, and I choose to see beyond this. I see this anxiety and depression, but I know that ultimately it is not the truth of me. And I look beyond it, and I ask for God to help me to see this situation differently. Because when I can look at things differently, the things around me begin to change. We want to create a miraculous life. We have to begin with an awareness of what is not right around us. So, Course in Miracles tells us that that miracles are natural. When they're not happening, then something has gone wrong, right? So we're meant to live a miraculous life. If we're not, something has gone wrong. So we don't want to just pour pink paint over our life, meaning we don't want to just use positive affirmations to deny what's going on. We want to use positive denial. Again, positive denial is looking at this relationship challenge that I'm facing. I went through this breakup, or I went through this divorce, or I just can't find the right person. Seeing beyond it and knowing that ultimately this problem is just an illusion, and that through faith and trust in God, I can use my magical wand, if you will, to transform my life. And that's what's so important about this story of Cinderella, is she was able to do that. She asked for help. She asked for her fairy godmother, which is just another way of talking about the Holy Spirit, or whatever you call that inner being that lives and resides within you. Asking that to help you. Because if we go back to how life got to be the way it is, life got to be the way it is because for most of us, it's as if we think we created ourselves, right? We think that we made ourselves. The Course in Miracles tells us that we have an authorship problem, that we think that we created ourselves, when the truth is God created us. Now, the problem, if I think I created myself, that means I'm going to rely on my own cleverness, my own intelligence, my own strengths, my own weaknesses, my own ability to see. But if all of that is fundamentally flawed, if deep down I feel I am not enough, then I'm not going to successfully be able to see things. And so it is just really silly to rely on myself in that sense, to rely on who I have made and the life I have made. Now, this is the difference between relying on myself and relying on God, is when I rely on God, when I lean into spirit and what God and those intuitive impulses that guide us to miracles, when I lean on that, well, I'm now leaning on something that has a perspective I don't have, a perspective I could not possibly have in all of my humanness, right? I can't see what is happening tomorrow. I can't see the consequences of the decisions I'm making today, a year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So this is why it is so important that we rely on God, the being who created this complicated universe, who put us on a tiny blue ball that floats around the sun, that has absolutely everything it could possibly need for life to grow and be abundant. Why would we rely on our own selves who cannot breathe for ourselves? We can't digest food on our own. We can hardly do anything on our own. It is a spirit of life. It is a spirit of God that does those things. So why is it that when we go into a romantic situation that we lead with ourselves first? Why is it that we decide, oh, well, this is what my career is going to be, and this is what I'm going to do? And we make all of these decisions without God, the creator of the universe. So it's a really important practice and tool to start leaning onto God and letting him tell you what would be best for you. And what does that look like? Him telling you what would be best for you. That looks like sitting in meditation and prayer every morning and saying, dear God, where would you have me go? Who would you have me be? What would you have me say? And to whom? God can only do for you what God can do through you. He needs your hands. He needs your voice. He needs your feet. He needs you to build and create a new reality for you. The more time you spend in meditation, the more time you spend in prayer, the more likely you are to get those intuitive impulses that are going to give you the thoughts of heaven the words of heaven, the behaviors of heaven, instead of those of your ego that have created the situation that you are in right now. So, how do we practically begin to create a new reality? One of the most important steps is awareness. If you're not aware that something has gone wrong, if you're not aware, for example, if you have a financial problem because you misspend or you're not taking your job seriously or whatever it could be, right? If you have a financial problem, but you're not aware of what's causing it, you're not going to be very good at fixing the situation, right? I was talking to a client of mine recently, and she was telling me about some struggles that she is having with some relationships. And she's telling me that this group of people, they're rude, they're disrespectful, they don't care for her. And she's going on and on about like how these people are treating her. And we kind of dived into that conversation. And I just asked her a series of questions. And ultimately, she came to conclude that it was actually her that was not contributing to these relationships. She was showing up judgmental. She was showing up unkind. She was being demanding and needy with these people, which was causing them, in effect, not to want to be around her. The final conclusion she came to was that she just wasn't even fun to be around. And because she wasn't even fun to be around, they didn't want to be around her. But she thought it was just them being rude and unkind. Now that she has an awareness of how powerful she is, because she is powerful enough to walk into a situation, be unfun, and turn people away. So now she knows to walk into situations, and instead of being in her ego, fearful self, to go in with love and lead with love and kindness and non-judgment, that she can then create harmony in these relationships that are so important to her. But without that awareness, she would have remained stuck in those relationships. This same thing is true with your health, right? If you're not aware that something you're eating is contributing to overweightness or it's contributing to a sickness, if you're not aware of how that's affecting you, then it's going to be really, really hard for you to make any changes because you're lacking the awareness of what ultimately is wrong. And this is why positive affirmations, I'm not a big fan of positive thinking, because positive thinking gives you the opportunity to look at something that is disharmonious, if that's a word, look at something that's not going right in your life and say, all is well. All is well in my universe. I am perfect, whole, and complete. While those things are true, if they're not true in the moment, then you need to recognize what is actually going on. I'm sure we've all been through experiences where you were just like, wow, I didn't realize. You just like, it's just so hard to even like express it. I mean, I know in my life, there was a time where trying to find what I want to share. I remember I went through what I thought was a health problem. I had this health problem and I went to the doctor for it and I kept going to the doctor for it. And I was just like, I have this health problem and it's doing this to my life. Reality was I was using drugs that were causing the health problem, but I was ignoring the drug part. And when I finally had the awareness, oh, this is creating the health problem, then I could turn the health problem around. So awareness is one of the most important and powerful tools. Now, how do you increase your awareness? You read self-help books, you sit in meditation, you ask yourself questions, you get into some spiritual counseling, you take a spiritual class, any type of activity or group effort that is gonna like force you to take a good, deep look at yourself. Now, the biggest reasons most of us don't want to, what really blocks us from our awareness is that deep down, most of us think that if we took an honest look at ourselves, that we would see how horrible and terrible we are. But the truth is, if we sit down and we take a deep look at ourselves and we look deeply enough and we look long enough and we analyze enough, we're actually going to see our own perfection. We're going to see just how powerful and wonderful we are. But until we go through that awareness process, we're going to remain stuck in a couple areas of our life. After we've begun to practice this awareness, the next step for us in creating our new reality is confession. The Catholics are really good at this. They have confession. The Jews just celebrated Yom Kippur, which is a time in every year where they atone and they look at mistakes they've made the past year. It's really important to us that regardless of our spiritual tradition and path, that we also adopt a sense of confession. For me, that practice is getting up in the morning, turning within, being really honest with myself and with God and say, you know what, God, I see that I've really blown it right here. Or I see where, yesterday, dear God, I really didn't put in the effort at work. I really was unkind to this person. Dear God, I didn't stick to my diet. I didn't exercise. And I know how important this is to me. And we just get really honest with ourselves and with God. And we just really have to go to that place, because until we go to that place where we really confess to God, and this isn't to say that we are bad. We're talking about places where we are wounded. But if we can really go to that place and say, dear God, this is what is happening. This is how I'm feeling. This is what it's doing to my life. Get really honest with him. Then we can follow the next step. And the next step is to hand the situation over to God. Now, ultimately, everything is in God's hand already, and God has promised us that regardless of the mistakes we've made, ultimately we will have an experience of love, joy, abundance, perfection, and the reality of heaven. Ultimately, we will have that, but we do have a choice about how much time it's going to take between now and then. We have a choice at how long we're going to prolong our happiness, our joy, our perfection, how long we're going to wait till we experience an ideal relationship, a loving romantic life, before we experience a really great health, before we experience financial abundance. We get to choose how long that's going to be. So that's why it's important to daily give not just the day, but our thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes and our very behaviors over to God every morning, so that he can be in charge of the day. Because if God is in charge of the day, here's what's going to happen for you. You're going to find that the business idea you've been looking for just comes to mind. Someone's going to hand you a book that inspires you to do something. The money's going to show up. The job's going to show up. The ideal perfect partner is just going to walk into your life, where a seminar is going to pop up that would really transform your life in a specific area. When you begin to think, speak, and act as God would have you think, speak, and act, then your reality begins to shift. It's really important that we remember that miracles occur twice. First, in the mind, there's a shift in thinking from fear to love that creates the miracle. And then wherever there needs to be a miracle in our circumstance, it then shows up. We get up, we give the day over to God. I say this all the time. And since we're so close to Halloween, I think it's very relevant that we talk about it again. But in vampire lore, how does a vampire enter your house? Only if you give it permission, right? And most vampire lore, the only way a vampire can enter your house is if you give it permission, right? The same is true with God. The only way for God to enter your house, which is your mind and your life, your world, is for you to daily invite him in to your mind, to your heart, to reside there. And if you don't do that, if you don't take that step every morning to say, God, come into this situation with my boss. God, come into this relationship. God, come into my finances, come into my health. Help me here. If you don't do that, then you leave yourself as prey to the ego, or rather even the vampire, right? When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I start thinking thoughts of doubt and fear, and I go on social media and I see what's going on in the world. That is an invitation to the vampire, i.e. the ego, to come into my mind and set up shop and rule my day. So if we want to create a new reality, we must get up every day and hand the day over to God. Choose and say to God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? You practice that every day, and you're going to find that in a very short amount of time, you have created a new reality. And most importantly, this is going to be a reality that you've created with God, with the power of this universe, that knows how to throw worlds into experience, that knows how to take an acorn seed and turn it into an oak tree, the same power that knows how to take an embryo and turn it into a baby, the same power that created you. That's what you want, creating your new reality with you. Not the limited version of yourself and what the world tells you, but that deep down power that can guide you, guard you, direct you into the reality that God would have you live. And in that reality, you're going to find that all of God's promises are kept. All the money you need to pay your rent, all the money you need for retirement just shows up. The lover that would be the best suited lover for you is going to show up. The health, the body, everything in your physical world that would contribute to God's promises for you, those things all begin to show up the moment you decide to let God lead your life. Now, we're going to go into a meditation right now. This is so important because in this meditation practice, we are going to hand over our day and our week and our life to God. This is a very powerful practice. I do this most mornings. I'm not perfect at it, but I do it most mornings. And I find that the days that I just really consciously give the day over to God, those are the days I experience my miracles. So if you feel comfortable, I want you to go ahead and get relaxed in your seat and begin to close your eyes. And just begin to turn within. And I invite you to take 3 deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Make these nice deep breaths. Feel it down your spine. 2 more. And after that 3rd breath, just let your breathing return to normal. And so as we begin to relax our body, remember, this is a judgment-free space. There is no right or wrong way to do this meditation. Thoughts will come and thoughts will go. We just keep our attention on our breathing. As our scalp relaxes, the muscles around our eyes relax. Let that relaxation pour down your body, relaxing your shoulders, your chest, your back, your belly, relaxing your hips, your arms, all the way down your legs, out through your toes and fingers. We allow any distracting noises to just push us deeper into our meditation. Not judging ourselves for any thoughts that come and go. Just every time we see a thought, hear a sound, we just bring our attention back to our breathing. We're going to sit in this space for just a moment. And so I imagine that as we've been speaking this morning, that an area of your life where you're not at peace has already come to mind. An area of your life where you would like to experience a new reality. It could be in your relationships, your health, your finances, your career, your sense of self. Something has already come to mind. And I invite you to imagine that before you, there is an altar. And I invite you to consciously to see yourself taking whatever this area is and placing it on the altar before you. If you're a visual person, really visualize yourself taking your health situation, taking your financial situation, whatever it is, placing it on this altar. No right or wrong way to do this. Just actively placing this subject, this area of life, onto the altar before you. So we are aware that this area is a challenge for us. And I invite you to go into a moment of confession with yourself and God. It can be as simple as, Dear God, I keep making this mistake with my health. Dear God, I keep making this mistake in relationships. Dear God, I don't know what the mistake is. Show me. But I invite you to say some type of confessional prayer to God here in this moment. And now I invite you to ask God to take this struggle from you. As we've placed it on the altar, light begins to shine down. And something as simple as, Dear God, I give my relationship with so-and-so over to you. Dear God, I give my physical health over to you. Please take this from me. Put your sadness on the shelf, on the altar, any anxiety, and whatever prayer feels right for you now. Go ahead and say that to yourself. So, dear God, as we are joined together this morning, we ask that you enter our minds and hearts and our circumstances. And I know that you, dear God, know what it is that troubles me. And I know that you know what troubles Mary Ellen. I know that you know what troubles Michelle. I know that you know what troubles Joanna or anyone else who is listening to this. We know that you know the depth of how troublesome this is. We know that you know the pain and suffering we've experienced in this situation. And we ask, dear God, that you come into our minds and our hearts and you create a miracle. Dear God, help us to see things differently. Help us to see beyond the illusion of suffering, to see beyond the illusion of ego. Dear God, come into our minds and hearts. Light us up from within. Create that miracle, dear God. Help everyone listening to begin to shift from fear to love. Help everyone listening to obtain whatever resources they need, whatever healing they need, whatever relationship they need, whatever healing of a relationship they need, dear God. I don't know what the solution here is. None of us do, but we know that you do. You are the power that has created this universe. You are all powerful. There's nothing you cannot do. So we simply step out of your way, dear God, so that you can bring a miracle and put us in harmony with your promises, that we will be abundant, that we will love, that we'll be happy, that we will have all that we need to more greatly contribute to this individual and collective life. Take a nice deep breath. And together we say, Amen. So as you feel comfortable, go ahead and begin to bring your attention back to the room, back to your seat, your computer, whatever device it might be, and open your eyes. So before we wrap up, a lot of what I was talking about, a lot of what we talked about today, you can take and you can immediately apply to your life and begin to change some things. But sometimes we do need a little extra spiritual guidance. I know for me throughout my life, there's been times where I've needed prayer, a prayer partner. So if you do need some extra guidance, we do have prayer assistance on our website over at loveisgreaterthanfear.org. We also have a variety of ways that we help support you along your spiritual path. We've got our Accessing Inner Wisdom counseling sessions. We've got our Healing the Inner Child 8-week program. Now I want to take a moment and highlight that one. If today, when I was talking about the thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes that are handed down to us from our family as we were children, if that resonated with you as an area that you need to work on, please check out the Healing the Inner Child class on the website. So this is an 8-week program. It's one-on-one. You and I would meet once a week for an hour. And during this time, we would review some of the exercises from the workbook you'll get, along with some meditations and a variety of exercises. I did this class myself a few years ago, and it was a very powerful experience for me. So if that part of the conversation today really resonates with you, definitely check that out. We've also got our weekly study group. So we meet every other Tuesday. Our next meeting is this coming Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We've been doing this for a couple months now, but it's not too late to join. If you're a student of A Course in Miracles and you want to participate in this, it's a powerful way for you to really track your spiritual progress, the miracles you're experiencing, and also make some new friends. And all of that is over on loveisgreaterthanfear.org. And then I have a really cool announcement. So I mentioned this, I think, a couple weeks ago, but we're going to do our first live event this Christmas. So we're having a Christmas service on Friday, December 23rd at 7 p.m. There's details on Facebook. It's not on the website yet, but basically what we're going to do is this is that Friday at 7 o'clock. It's called a Night of Miracles. We're going to be having our first in-person Christmas service here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'll post it into the comment section here so you can find it. And if you're going to be in the Phoenix area around Christmas, please join us. We would love to see you. It's going to be a great evening. Don't forget to find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And then let's all say our spiritual declaration together one more time. I surrender this day to God, that he may lead me to deeper peace, greater love, and fuller life expression. I surrender all my fears and desires to him. I ask that he show me the path from fear to love. Amen. So we will be back next Sunday at 10 a.m. with a new talk. I don't know what it is yet. I'll tell you next Sunday. Now, keep in mind that our spiritual center relies entirely on your generous donations, and you guys have been so generous. You've helped us get started with our nonprofit status, and then you've also helped us raise some money to do this first person event. The money that you guys also donate also helps with hosting the website, helps with StreamYard so we can stream this across multiple channels. Just really, really helps us out. It also helps us to give scholarships to people who maybe can't afford the counseling or the classes. So every dollar you donate is truly appreciated and really helps the future of this center. So if you feel moved by today, if this was like truly a service to you and you want to see this center continue to grow and thrive, do more in-person events, do workshops, reach more people, all of that fun stuff, you can make a donation on PayPal. You just need to use the handle @LoveIsGreaterCenter. So that's on PayPal @LoveIsGreaterCenter. You can find more information about making donations on loveisgreaterthanfear.org. And if you need to donate a way other than PayPal, just reach out to me. You can DM me or email me. There's other ways that we take donations as well. You can either set up a one-time thing or you can do a monthly contribution. So you guys have been awesome. And I will see you next Sunday. Until next time, love one another. Bye.